Representative Duncan, we welcome your testimony.
Here you go. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would say thank Ranking Member McGovern, but he left, for recognizing me to speak today on H.R. 7176, Unlocking Our Domestic LNG Potential Act of 2024. We have considered similar bill before, but a number of things have changed, one of which being Representative Johnson has left Congress to take a job in Ohio, and we saw the administration put an indefinite pause, as you said, Mr. Chairman, not by executive action, not by legislation, and this legislation was introduced by my friend August Pfluger, and it is identical to H.R. 1130. But H.R. 7176 will reverse President Biden's LNG export ban, a political stunt that's jeopardizing the American economy and our energy security. President Biden's LNG export ban is killing jobs and discouraging investments to create American jobs and bring manufacturing back to the United States from overseas. Yet, this is another move by the Biden administration to undercut the Energy Department here in the United States. This administration and congressional Democrats have taken over 170 actions to make it harder to produce oil and gas in the United States. One example of this is the Biden administration's offshore oil and gas leasing program, a 5-year plan that has to be put out by the administration for future oil and gas lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico and other OCS areas. This is the fewest number of lease sales in United States history. Now, this program is currently facing legal challenges because restricting lease sales threatens U.S. energy security and makes energy less affordable for all Americans. It also cuts revenues to states like Texas and Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida that share in the Gulf of Mexico leasing program, revenue sharing. It also undermines the Land and Water Conservation Fund. I'm a conservationist. I like that money collected in royalties from offshore lease sales actually sets aside property that can't be developed and preserves that property for the wildlife that I enjoy seeing and hunting and fishing for. President Biden's short-sighted energy policy is threatening generations to come, even in those areas, Mr. Chairman, people that like the outdoors. Latest example in his LNG export ban, which has already disrupted global energy markets and discouraged our allies in Europe who are desperately seeking to eliminate their dependence on Russian natural gas. Europe needs our LNG. When the war in Ukraine happened, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, Europe looked west to the United States to provide American-produced LNG to meet their energy sources so they would be less dependent on an adversary, Putin's oligarch, for the energy sources. But instead, Europe's importing 40% more Russian LNG than they were before the invasion of Ukraine because they can't depend on the United States, it seems like, with this LNG export ban. H.R. 7176 will restore America's energy dominance and cement our position as the world's leading producer and exporter of natural gas. America's blessed with some of the largest reserves of energy in the world. We've got the strongest environmental protections and the best workforce to develop those resources. We believe in free markets, innovation, the rule of law. With all that going for us, we don't need to rely on OPEC or Russia or Iran for our energy needs. H.R. 7176 will ensure that our children and grandchildren do not have to beg dictators and autocrats for energy, as the Biden administration has done. H.R. 7176 will also give our allies in Europe a crucial lifeline, a safe and reliable supply of natural gas to wean themselves off of Russia. Putin has used the spigot, turning it off and on to influence political decisions made in Europe. In the past, we've never done that, Mr. Chairman. We've never used export of American energy resources to influence political policy or any other policy. In December 2015, Congress lifted the ban on crude oil exports on a bipartisan basis. Since we lifted the crude export ban, our energy production surged. Millions of jobs were preserved, new jobs are created in all 50 states. Our balance of trade improved. In 2019, we became a net exporter of petroleum for the first time since 1952. It's time that Congress lifts the regulatory restrictions that are stifling America's natural gas production. H.R. 7176 will create thousands of jobs here in the United States and encourage expansion of clean American natural gas. According to some estimates, LNG exports could add as much as $73 billion to the U.S. economy and upwards of 453,000 American jobs by 2040, jobs we need here in this country. H.R. 7176 will help reduce emissions globally by allowing our allies overseas to stop using dirty Russian fuel. According to DOE's own studies, LNG produced here in the United States is 40% cleaner than Russian gas. This bill contains strong protections to ensure that American natural gas will not go to state sponsors of terrorism or sanctioned countries. H.R. 7176 will advance U.S. global leadership and strengthen our economy. It's a win-win for the American people, for the American government, and for our friends and allies around the world. And if you want to approach it from a climate standpoint, cleaner-burning U.S.-produced natural gas exported to countries like Vietnam can help them reduce their global carbon emissions, because guess what? Carbon emissions is not isolated to the United States of America. If we're concerned about the environment, we think about global carbon emissions. We can help countries take coal-powered offline and replace it with cleaner-burning U.S.-produced natural gas exported through American export terminals, produced here at home by American jobs, to help others lower their carbon emissions. So I want to thank you for the opportunity for me to provide a statement, and I encourage my colleagues to join me in support of this legislation. I look forward to your questions. I yield back.